Hey folks, this is Oliver, K6OLI, and I am going to walk you through the practice poll number 3 in preparation for the CALLEJERO exercise, and hopefully this will answer some of your questions. First thing you want to do is to download practice poll number 3. The link is in the description below. We do this by clicking on File, then going to Download, and then Microsoft Excel. And as you can see up here, it's downloaded. You can double click it and open it. For those of you who have Google Sheets for this particular exercise, you can also go to File, Make a Copy, and that will give you a copy in your Google Drive that you can edit. Generally, though, we prefer that you download the Excel on a local copy and use Excel or LibreCalc, which I will be using today to do this. All right, so we've downloaded it. We're going to open this. You will see I've already opened mine. In this case, keep in mind you will see the Site tab, the Resource tab, and the Dim Site. You don't have to worry about these last two, but you will work on the Site and the Resource today. You can also see that I've already filled some of this information in here. I've added my report date, and that's populated the suggested file name. Same for the report time. That updated the suggested file name. And I put in my call sign here, and that also added the suggested information here. So that's a good way of starting with your own information on line 8 here, or row 8. And then we're going to walk through together what a neighbor report would look like. Let's say our neighbor, in this case, you can see we added the full address, latitude, longitude, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And we filled out the questionnaire. But let's say our neighbor wasn't that lucky, and at this point, we'll just pick a random person out of this. I'll bring up my Google, trusty Google Maps here. And let's say our neighbor is at, I don't know, Bellefontaine, right here. So you can see what's here. All right here. How about that? Centaur dentistry. That looks like a good location to use here. All right. So in this case, we're going to use this as a neighbor for demonstration purposes. We're going to change the names, obviously. But the nice thing about this is we can start with the report date, control semicolon. We can use the report time, control shift semicolon. Of course, you can enter this manually by typing 2025-05-29 in this case, and then 08:58. We're going to pick the time zone we're in. In this case, we're in Pacific time, so that's a good way of doing this. Oops. I should probably do that in the local copy. So let's do this again. You can see it happens. And here we're picking the -8 Pacific time, if we can find it. Send a call sign. That will still be your call because you're the sender. And then we'll just make up a name here. Joe Sample. And if you want to be really creative here, you actually add, it's a fictitious name. There you go. And now let's go back and find the address. Again, this is for a make-believe neighbor. Let's clear that out here. We can close that. We won't need this anymore. All right, and we'll just grab this address. We can click on copy address. Minimize that, right mouse click and paste special. We always recommend that you use unformatted text. So right mouse click, unformatted text. Now you want the latitude, longitude. Little trick here. We can have these side by side. For those of you who are using Windows 11, it's super easy. I think some versions of Windows 10 do it too, but Windows 11, highly recommend that. And the way to do that is to right mouse click and then left mouse click on this, on the latitude and the longitude. Then we right mouse click under the latitude and click Paste Special, Unformatted Text. And now you can see we have both in there. You can now cut this information and paste it in the longitude, or I'll show you a cool little trick. You can go to Data, Text to Columns, and here detected it wrong. So what we need is to switch to separated by, comma, make sure that's checked. Make sure you've got 2 columns, not 3. Remember, here we had 3, but here we've got 2. Click OK, and there you go. The information has been automatically passed on. Now, another cool thing, because we have the latitude and longitude still in our clipboard or on our clipboard, we can go to What 3 Words, and we can paste, right mouse click and paste our latitude, longitude, and then we can click on it, and then we can do gift album VL. We can copy that information, right mouse click, remember to paste unformatted text, and that gives us the location information of our neighbor. In our case, let's assume our neighbor was harder hit. And so let's go and talk about access and functional needs at address. If you cannot see the entire box, one little trick is to double click on the line between 7 and 8. Let me show you again how I did that. So you can see the whole thing. You go between 7 and 8 here and double click, and that'll expand the field. And then let's say, yes, there are people with access and functional needs there. Yes, they do have pets. They're out of power right now. So let's say they have no power. They have drinking water, but only for a day. Their wastewater services are interrupted. So let's click no. They do not have wastewater service. And what we mean by that is when you flush the toilet, does it keep flushing? After a major event like an earthquake, you might have 1, maybe 2 flushes left, but obviously this becomes a hygiene problem almost immediately. Phone service, let's say we've got mobile service. Let's say they do not have phone service right now. You don't have to enter a phone number for this, but obviously if you have phone service, it will make a lot of sense in a real event to add your phone number, because it doesn't do anybody good if you tell people I've got phone service, but I don't tell you the number, right? Let's say their internet is out and they do have radio, but it's in the car, right? And so in this case, do they have transportation? Yeah, let's say that they have a car, but it's not working. So we say none. So only the battery is still working. And then comments, and that was something that came up in the German ham group. What happens if there's more than one person with access and functional needs? Well, that would go into the comments, right? And with access functional needs, think about it this way. This is not, a lot of people think this is people in wheelchairs, but it's anybody who has any issue moving around or developmental issues that may hinder their movement. So that's the way to think about it. And in the US, that's about 30% of the population. It includes pregnant women. It includes people of certain ages. It includes, people with glasses. It includes myself, right, without my glasses. So kind of keep that in mind. So in this case, let's add a comment that says, for persons with access and functional needs. Because if you're sending help, sending a van is maybe required in this case rather than sending a car, right? So let's just keep this in mind. We filled this out. The wonderful thing is our suggested file name has been filled out too. So let's right mouse click, copy this, and then save as. You can see I already did that up here. So I will only click on save. You will be clicking on save as and then pasting this file name in there. And that's your first part with the site done. You're welcome to add a third person in there just to keep practicing, especially for Saturday, right? Next, we're going to address the resource questions. So follow me. Let's go to the bottom of our sheet. Let's click on the resource tab. And what we're asking for here for practice poll number 3 are metro stations, a bus stop, and the nearest coffee shop. Why the coffee shop? Well, if you are working for waiting for public transport, having a coffee shop nearby is 1, very convenient and nice to have a coffee, but 2, it also provides a level of safety during business hours because there are always people. So keep that in mind. That's a good thing to know for situational awareness and really practical. All right, let's do a bus stop. And I'll show you the others in a moment, but let's do a bus stop together because it's an interesting issue here to work with. All right, we're up here in this area. So you can go to Google Maps and we can zoom out here and you can see the little icons here. These are all bus stops and our location is here. So let's pick the Fair Oaks bus stop, right? So Fair Oaks and Congress. One of the things that you see here is you've got Fair Oaks and Congress, and you have a stop ID. That's super useful. So in this case, we're going to first copy our information. So highlight it, right mouse click, copy, and then paste special, unformatted text. And you see Fair Oaks Congress has been filled in, but I would suggest that we also add the stop ID. That's great information if you can share that. So we'll add a space up here and we paste. And you can see Fair Oaks and Congress stop ID 10394, right? And you can see that information is here. If you ever want to see the entire information, you can actually make this wider. Or, like we did before, we can double click on this, although that makes it way wide right now because of the information in the B column. So, all right, let's go back here. It's a bus stop. The information here, let's double check that. There won't be any phone number. Obviously, we can check, but there isn't a phone at the bus stop. And you can also see there isn't a precise address. So in this case, we're just copying the address we have here. We paste it as unformatted text. And we have to enter the city, county, state, and zip. Let's do that together. Pasadena, I'm typing that. County is Los Angeles. And state is California. And I would encourage all of you to type it out like that so we have a uniform way of doing this. And the zip is, if you want to check, you can always go back here, 91105. 91105. The country is United States. And next is the latitude and longitude. We can do the same thing. We can come back to our map here, right mouse click, find the latitude, longitude, left mouse click, right mouse click, paste special, unformatted text. And again, you see both of these latitude and longitude are in here. Go back to our tools. Oops, sorry. Data, go back to data. Then we go to text to columns. See how there are 3 columns here? So we go separated by, comma, gives us 2 columns. Click OK. The information's in there. Now we find the what 3 words. Go back to our what 3 words. Right mouse click and paste. Hit enter. Sports cheese liner, that's a good one. Copy this, right mouse click, paste special, unformatted text. And from K6 OLI. All right. Now, in this case, what you'll notice is that I kind of screwed up because I gave the information for the metro station. Um, but that's not a problem. What we can do here is we can highlight the information, right mouse click, copy. I like to copy rather than cut. You could cut it, but copying in case I mess up again. And then paste special, remember, unformatted text. You see all the information's been moved over. And then we'll just highlight everything on row number 1 and click delete. And now we have all the information for our bus stop in the proper fields. And so we'll do the same thing for the metro station and the coffee shop. You can see I already did that here. For Fillmore Metro Station, which if we zoom out is right here. That's Fillmore. And then Jones Roasters is, if we go up here and move this over. So here's Fillmore and Jones is right here, right? Coffee Roasters. There's a Starbucks on this side too. And Superba Snacks and Coffee. So there are a lot of options here. And the Starbucks would, I think, be right here. There you go. Right? All right, so that was the information there. We don't need the map anymore after we filled everything out. So we can minimize that or close that, maximize this. And the next step here is to send the site information and the resource information to K6OLI and LAX Northeast. And so we start our Winlink Express. We start a new message. We don't have to select a template. We can just type in K6OLI and LAX Northeast. Subject, let's start with the site information if you want to follow along here. So we go to Sites, and we left mouse click and hold, and we will drag that over, still holding that left mouse, and then we release where we want to stop. Then we do a right mouse click anywhere where it's blue, and we copy. Can minimize that. And then we paste the information in here. And you can see it's a nice tab delimited format. And for the subject, we will actually be very consistent. So we're going to do practice poll number 3, site and call sign. So practice poll number 3, site, and then my call sign, because that way Net Control knows what it is, what tab it is, and then of course the call sign of the person. Could you do both of them in here? Absolutely, if you give it a couple of spaces so people know where the data ends. But we're going to do it in 2 separate messages because I want to show you something else too. All right, so we post this to Outbox. You can see we got 1 message in the Outbox. Minimize that, do the same thing for the resource. So go back to our resource tab, left mouse click and hold, and drag it over to the last cell we want to copy. Right mouse click, copy. And by the way, if you include the header, that's perfectly okay, not a problem. We minimize this, bring up our Winlink, our next message. No need to select a template. K6OLI, and it'll go to LAX East. And then in this case, we do the same thing. Can bring this down a little bit and call it practice poll number 3, resource 6OLI, consistent, and we paste this information in here, and we click post to outbox. That's all there is to it, right? And we can see practice poll number 3, resource and site. And we can see the sizes here are 0.5 kilobyte. And that's important. Why? Let's try this. Let's save our information. Let's close this file and let's start a new message. And let's do the same thing. Let's K6OLI, LAX, Northeast. And subject, we will do practice all number 3. And here we're going to do spreadsheet. So we know the spreadsheet is attached. K6OLI. Now we're going to attach the spreadsheet. We're going to add practice poll number 3. You can already see the size is substantially larger. Click on finished. Please see attached spreadsheet. So 3. All right. So what we have here now is we've attached the spreadsheet, right? Same information, but what I want to show you here is this is 0.5 kilobyte. This is 20 kilobytes large. So that's a very, very large size difference. And there are also additional steps that need to be taken by net control to open this and copy the information. Depending on what the situation is, we may ask you to send either the spreadsheet or the text data, but you can see that text data, especially if you're using HF or if HF is part of the communications path, might be a good way of doing this because it is so much smaller. So the probability of it going through is higher. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for your attention. Appreciate you participating in the exercise on Saturday. Feel free to send the practice poll to K6OLI _LAX Northeast. Until then, we're happy to include your information on our shared dashboard with a Metro coffee shop. And for those of you who know me, I like coffee. So you're doing me a favor if you fill out your favorite coffee shop in your area. With that, 7-3 all, this is Oliver, K6OLI. Goodbye.